It's time to wander the world with Sharon. Enjoy this Big Blend radio podcast featuring award-winning travel writer and photographer Sharon K. Kurtz. So welcome, everyone. I know Sharon loves to travel the world from Africa and Egypt to Austin, Texas, where she lives now. But she just came back from a beautiful small ship cruise. She went with Windstar Cruises. And from her article, which is linked in the episode notes, she talks about this being definitely an amazing way of slow traveling. And it was almost like being on a yacht. She went sailing Greece and Italy aboard Windstar's Star Legend. That is really the itinerary. It's a piece of Greece, a slice of Italy itinerary. Like a slice of Italy, I'm already wanting pizza, Sharon. How are you?
I'm very good. It's so good to see you again.
Well, really, I was reading this article and I suddenly went, I've seen all the photos that you took and everything and the video clips. And I'm like, I started to slow down just reading how like relaxed this trip was and that you felt like you were more on a big yacht than a cruise ship. And it just seems like even the number of staff to the amount of people on board, you had this was a good trip. Let's put it that way.
There's a number of ways to cruise, we all know, but they have those mega ships that are so gigantic, you can't even make it from one end to the other. But no, this is small ship cruising, only 300 passengers. You get to know people's faces as you pass them in the hall, 190 crew. So it's almost 2-to-1. And it was the best cruise I've ever had.
Really? Out of everything?
Yes.
Wow. And I mean, you've done all kinds of cruises, Alaska, everything.
Yeah.
Germany.
The other cool thing was this was shoulder season. So it wasn't in the heat of the summer. And right now we all know that Europe is suffering. All of these places I visited, I'm sure are so hot right now. But when you go in shoulder season, like March to May, it's cheaper for one thing, and it's less tourist, and it's so nice, the weather. I had to wear a jacket when we left several mornings.
Oh, wow. Wow. And then so the September time, like you said, is really nice as well. So for those thinking, I always think September is a good time to travel. It's one of my favorite months to do it.
I agree.
April, the spring and fall. And so when people are planning now, is it too late to plan it to go this fall, do you think?
No, I would, in my article, there will be a link. They have all kinds of cruises, availabilities, last minute tickets even. So if you want to go this fall, get on that website.
Well, I do have the website. It's windstarcruises.com, everybody. Go check it out. So, I've done some interviews on them before, but it does seem like the yacht vibe versus the mega city floating. And, and each thing is for whatever the experience you want. Maybe you want the mega ship because you're going with a big family reunion, whatever. So everybody's different in what they're doing. But this seems just so more relaxed and, like you said, like a yacht. So you actually enjoyed, you even in your article said on one of the, you would go back to the yacht, the ship, for a nap and go back out. So they were taking it easy, just even how you did this over 8 days, right?
Well, when you have a small ship like this, you can go where the big ships cannot go. You've heard or maybe experienced where you tender out into the water and then you have to wait your turn and get in little boats to even get ashore. No, we went right up to the dock. Every single time that we had an excursion, we just stepped right out and into town. So you can go back for a nap and then go back out for ice cream,
Or gelato since you're in Italy. Wow. So when you get to dock, are you going into different towns, like smaller ports and getting more of the smaller communities that you're visiting?
Yeah. So this was an 8-night cruise and I believe we had 7 port stops. So of the 7, I signed up for the Windstar excursion where you meet like most of the time about 9:00 down at the bottom of the gangway. You meet your group and you take off on your excursion. But sometimes you just walk right into town and do whatever you like. But there was only one sea day. Some people love sea days. That's a day when there is nothing I have to do today. I can sleep till 11 if I want. I can have breakfast in bed, visit the spa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All of
For
those
champagne?
Play shuffleboard on the deck, like,
just relax.
Yeah, but there were only one sea day. All the rest were port stops where you can get off and have visit if you like, but you don't have to.
Okay. So then you even mentioned that you went shopping with the chef, the onboard chef.
Oh, yes. That's another thing that Windstar is known for. It's known as tours that for people that love good food. The food is really the best on the ship. And we got to go, a small group, about 17 of us in Sardinia, got to go to a market and we shopped with the chef for food for the rest of for the evening's dinner, fresh fruits, vegetables, and fish. But what was really fun was it was a working market. I mean, we'd get the side eye for locals, like, what are you doing here? But they would, chef and his helpers would get lunch meats and cheeses and wine from every place we stopped, and we'd all gather around, and it was a communal big platter, and you would just grab what you liked. It was really fun.
So when you do that, is he telling you like what he could make with it, what he's thinking of, and how to choose things?
Yes, like we'd pass a fishmonger and he'd have us all gather around and he'd pick up a fish and show us the gills are red, nice and red and juicy. The eyes are clear. The fin and tail are supple, and then he'd tell us what you don't want. You don't want, and then he would pick it up and smell it and say, no fishy odor, clear eyes. And so he was like giving us tips on how to prepare fresh food.
Wow. And then you are in the Mediterranean. So, I mean, you've got Italy and Greece. And so is he doing that normally, like going out into the markets every place they dock, or is
I
that
think
just
on this
one time?
cruise line, that's one thing they're proud of. And so I would imagine every single cruise you go on, there will be an opportunity if you sign up early enough to go shopping with the chef. Not everybody can do this. There were 300 passengers and there were only 17 of us on the thing. So,
I
you
want
have
to
to,
shop with a chef.
yeah, that
You go,
sign up
girl.
for that first.
So the other part is you got to eat in all these different places, and it sounded like it wasn't a rushed experience, which sometimes it is, right? So this seemed
Yeah.
like you could kind of stroll through town and find where you wanted to eat, even.
Yeah. One of my memories is we went to Messina, Italy. Sicily is where we docked. And then we took a coach about an hour to Taormina. Taormina is this absolutely beautiful town in Sicily. And everybody wants to go there. So it does get crowded. That's where they have the historic amphitheater, Greek
Oh,
amphitheater.
yeah, that's right.
So Dave and I, we went walking after down a little lane and we stopped at this little cafe right on the edge and had arancini. Have you heard of that?
I have, but
Arancini
I've never had
is
it.
kind of like a Sicilian rice ball and they're coated and fried and they can have cheese in them or meats or
I think I have actually had this now that I think of it, but
yeah.
yeah.
We had arancini, we had Aperol spritz, which is an Italian thing, and then we had cannolis. You've heard about cannolis, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. So that wasn't fancy, but it was so authentic and is
Mhm.
exactly what we wanted.
And then you got to go to the amphitheater too.
Yeah, that
Wow.
it is one of the most beautiful sights. And actually right behind me, I am right there in Taormina, and that is Mount Etna behind my head with the
Wow.
snow.
Wow. For those who are listening, check out the article. The link is in the episode notes so you can see these kinds of views, There it just is such a different way of living, compared to how we live in the States. Don't you think when you go to these villages and
Yes.
communities and just even how the houses are, it's just, a step back in time, yet people are still modern, but it's interesting how they balance that.
Yes, this was Greece, Sicily, and Sardinia. So in Greece, where I had never been before, that was one of the reasons I wanted to to go on this cruise. We
Oh,
got to start in Athens, and I got to go to the Parthenon. I was going to say Pantheon. I was like, no, 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 Parthenon, and walk all through Athens. That was really fun. But these little Greek islands, we stopped at little tiny places that, and you see how they live. They shop every day. Maybe there's a grocery store, and maybe on the outsides of town, but more likely everyone shops daily for what they need at the markets.
wow. So everything's a little fresher too.
Yes.
I mean, that market that you went to, that shows you how the fish is like fresh,
Oh
that
my gosh.
day. So I
Yes.
wonder how their bodies are healthy wise.
Actually, Sardinia, where that market was, that is considered one of the blue zones. So where
That's
people live
right.
to be 100, that
Yeah.
is Sardinia. And that is the way they live and they shop. And at this market, we saw all kinds of people that would bring their dogs with them. Everybody loves dogs, and their little dogs would be
Oh,
in the
you were
shopping
happy
cart.
then.
Yeah. So you see little bitty old women doing their daily shopping, and young people, everybody.
It's so cool. So this is all from a cruise. This is interesting because it seems like you got more connected within the communities than normal. Then here's the excursion. You meet the winemaker, off you go on to the next thing. This seems just really like you got to explore at your own pace and talk to people and be like more integrated into the community.
Yeah, it was really, we really did love it.
Mm, this is very cool. So, okay, so let's get a part two. It's an all-suite yacht. This is a big deal. And so you had, even though it's a small ship, you had 6 dining venues, and it is also in partnership of the James Beard Foundation.
Yes. When I said that they're known for their good food, yeah, it's really
Mm.
serious. They have this partnership. And so every night on the menus, they would have special James Beard selection where a chef, award-winning James Beard chef designed that particular dish, and they would tell you why and
Oh,
what was in it. And so yeah, 6. And the other good thing about Windstar is there, of these 6, only 2 needed a reservation. And that was the Basil and Bamboo, and then one fresco dining hall that were much smaller. That was why. But you don't have to have a reservation. You can go where you can make your decision at the last minute. Unlike
okay.
big ships, maybe that maybe even have like only a main dining room and you have certain seatings. No, that isn't.
Oh, yeah, I remember
What
that.
I loved was there, what you considered the bigger venue, Amphora. We loved just going up and saying we're 2, and they said, "Do you want to share?" And we said, "Yeah." We got to sit with the most interesting people. They would just sit us at a table with another couple or 4 that were waiting, and then that's how you
Mm.
get to meet people. It was fun.
And they're also saying, yes, we want to share. So,
Yeah,
they're open to that. It's not like,
exactly.
hey, we're storming your table. Let's have a party,
Yeah.
y'all.
Like when we were waiting, maybe there was a couple and they asked if they wanted to share, and you could tell they were honeymooners, or
Oh, yeah,
this
yeah.
was a very special even. They said no. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
And sometimes you're just, wanting to be in your own little zone.
Yeah.
I'm like that too. At times it's just like, I don't want to talk to people. I just want to eat, calm down, unwind, and then go to bed.
Yeah.
You know, I love that you have that balance. When you're having your meals and everything, is that all inclusive of the actual cruise itself, or are you paying as you go?
No, this cruise, you pay in advance for the whole, there's no extra charges for any of those meals. You do pay for your shore excursions, but the other thing is you don't have to go on a paid shore excursion. You can book your own. There are, Get Your Guide or any of these
Oh,
like
wow.
little excursion companies. You can call them and go with them, or just walk through town, and they give
Wow,
you
that's
the
cool.
information on how to catch the shuttle and what time to be back, and then you're on your own.
I like that balance
Yeah.
because, I know some people who've done cruises and gone to places where their family history, that's where their roots are. And
Yeah.
so they want to cruise there and enjoy that experience, but then, hey, I want to go visit this church in a village because that's where my great 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 grandparents got married or are
Yeah.
resting in peace or, whatever they want to do. So you could do that if you're from,
Right. Yeah, of
Sardinia, if
course
your
you
roots are
can.
there, you know.
You can do whatever you like.
Wait a minute, this is sounding more like my style. I like because, little spontaneity is good. When
Yeah.
everything is so completely planned, I think it just gets, we have to leave room. Do you do that when you book these, like leave some room to
Yeah.
just, let's go have an adventure?
Yeah, I did that on several days. And the other fun thing about this cruise, the Star Legend, oh, we were going there. Star Legend really, I mean, Windstar are really known for their ships with the sails. When you
Mm.
see those pictures and you see a big ship with sails, you think, oh, I want to do that. But actually, the Star Legend, there are 3 of the Windstar ships that during the pandemic, they were cut in half and extended and made into a luxury bigger ship. And that's what we're on, the Star Legend. So that's how they are all suites. You go in and you have this like sitting
Wow.
area in front of a window, Juliet balcony, and then a sleep area, much bigger than their normal sailing ships. So that's what the Star Legend is. And now they even have a brand new ship that's even more luxe. And
I don't know. You may have to do that. Does it go to different destinations or does each ship stick to their own route?
no, they do. Like the Star Legend now in the summer is in the Mediterranean, and then in the winter, I believe it's in the Caribbean.
Well, you know what you need to do now.
Well, and then the brand new ship, what everybody like when you had dinner together, and you have some couples are cruisers. That's just what they live for. And several of them were going on to Tahiti. That was the new ship was going to Tahiti in the fall, and I was envious.
Well, does it mean that you don't get to do it next year?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to.
Have you been to Tahiti?
No, I've been to Fiji. Of course, those are two different places, but in my mind, they're both fabulous, islands far away. So, but not Tahiti
Yet.
yet.
Yet. What count are you at again with your countries, do you think?
High 60s.
Man, that's good.
I
Did
haven't
you ever
stopped the
think?
count lately, but I had to re-up my global entry pass, and on the application, they ask you, where have you been in the past 3 years? Man, that is hard to think to yourself, oh my gosh, maybe most people don't have like 3 pages of destinations. The way I do it is I have to go back through my pictures and see
And your
where I
articles
was.
too,
Yeah,
yeah.
in articles.
Wow. You go, girl. That's good. I mean, when you were a little girl, did you think you would see all these places?
Well, my dad worked for the railroad, and we
Ah,
and that kind of got my wanderlust going. But when I was in like 10 on the railroad, because he had a free pass, he took 4 children to Montreal to the World's Fair in 1967. And
wow.
there at the World's Fair, they had all of these booths from all over the world. And that's where
Oh,
I got my wanderlust. I was like, oh, I'm going to go there one day,
and you
make
did.
my way. And I pretty much have. Yes.
Well, you're not done. So let's
That's
keep going. This
right.
is cool. And you got to Greece. And that's the thing too. You know, uh, Going to Greece, that is something that's on my list as well. And then you also went to Corfu.
Yes.
Oh,
Did you watch that public television
oh
series
yes,
about
Gerald Durrell.
the Durrells?
Yeah,
I
I read all
love,
of his books growing up,
I
every
love
single
that
one.
show. So I got to go to Corfu. That was high on my list. And that is the most fascinating place. It has a Venetian history. It was part of Venice for the longest time, and now it's an UNESCO site. So several of these Greek islands around it were destroyed at some point by earthquakes. The ancient architecture, but Corfu was never destroyed. It never got hit by one of these horrible earthquakes. And so the architecture is fascinating. It's still old Italian, like Grecian, Italian Venice looking.
Cool. That's so cool. What was your favorite part in Greece for you?
I would say the place that we visited called Mistress. Our
Uh-huh.
first port was a little port called Githion, and then we drove like an hour, less than an hour, to this ancient Byzantine city near Sparta. You've heard of
Oh yeah,
Sparta?
Sparta.
That's where Sparta is. This was
Wow.
before Sparta ever happened, and it was started in the 1200s, and then it became a Byzantine city. So we went to these ancient churches with frescoes and walked up the hillside, and it was amazing that I was seeing this. So that was really something.
That's that. I mean, this ancient history, right? As we celebrated recently the 250th
Yeah,
birthday of the United States, isn't this just interesting to see? Because so many people came from the Mediterranean here,
yeah.
and it's like, wow, you left paradise, came here and worked really hard as immigrants, and we're still in paradise here too, I believe. But it's this. Wow, you imagine leaving that and things they had traumatic times in their past,
Oh
you know?
yeah. I've learned so much traveling. It opens your eyes to learning other people's stories. And yeah, look behind me there, Taramina. It is gorgeous. But you don't think that people had hard times with not enough food to eat because of natural disasters and wars and all sorts of things. And then they
Hmm.
had to immigrate. And that
Hmm.
is just, we're a country of immigrants.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say.
Yeah, me too. Me too. And when you go to these places, I think there's this connection of like, oh, I know somebody from Sicily and here I am in Sicily. And oh my gosh, now I understand a little bit more about your family actually being where your family could, your ancestors could have walked through, or maybe it's your own family. And that's what I think so many people are traveling that way and going to where their ancestors were from. And, you start to understand like, now I know like why I like pizza this way. No,
Right.
that's the lighter part of it, right? The
Right.
fun part of it. But how travel is just so, it is just everything to me. It is everything. It is absolutely everything for really getting the quest for knowledge and experience. And I love that you did this as slow travel because I think you just get the time to soak up the atmosphere of where you are, you know? So the other part is you went to Cagliari, Sardinia? Am I saying
Yeah.
this? And
Yeah.
this is
That's
you're
one
walking
thing.
on seawalls. What?
Cagliari as Sardinia is another fascinating place. It's in Italy, but it's an island that everybody wanted. From the Italians to the Greeks to the ancient Morocco, all kinds of ancient peoples wanted this place. So they had to protect themselves with high seawalls. And it was a fascinating place. We went to the most wonderful museum there where they had artifacts from so far back, all those different civilizations. It was
That's amazing. Because that again, talk about ancient history, right? That's the other part. So, all right. So the food, I'm going back to the food. The food is great on the ship and then off the ship,
yeah,
right?
yes.
What was
So
the wine like? That's the
the
important.
wine was paired with like when we were in Greece, we had Greek wine. A lot of it was white wine that they make in Greece. So we went to a winery and one of our port stops, and I actually still have one of those bottles that I'm going to share with you, Lisa, when you come to see me in Austin.
We're
I'm
gonna see
yeah.
you.
And
I'm gonna go pick up special wine now. I mean, how am I gonna beat this? This is
and
gonna be
then
special.
And then Sicily, that's another great wine region. So I love that on the ship, they would pair the foods that you were having with the places where you were stopped for the evening. So one of the port stops I loved was we got to go to Sardinia, another place I've never been. It's an island, a big island right in the middle of the Mediterranean that every single civilization coveted. They all wanted it. The Arabs, the Italians, the Phoenicians, all kinds of people. So they had big, tall seawalls to protect it through the centuries. And that's where we got to go on the market. We got to go to the market with the chef.
Oh, yeah, that's where it was. But then you also said you walked on these giant seawalls.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite things was they had a wonderful museum that was really thank God for GPS. That's another good thing. GPS is amazing how it works all over the world. So if you put into you're on Sardinia, put in the GPS you want to go to the museum, and it'll take you all the way. So we went wandering all these little lanes, narrow streets, and on the way back down, they took us to a place where a big plateau where you got to look over the seawall like 360 degrees
Oh,
around.
wow.
It is so beautiful.
Oh, wow.
And
And that was at
wine,
the
they have
museum?
the best wine.
You're talking my language here. So that was in Sardinia was the best wine?
I'd say I like Sicily wine the best.
Oh,
That was my favorite, but I don't turn down wine anywhere,
I know.
and I like it all everywhere.
So that was good. So on the ship, did they pair wines from the region when you had your meal?
Yes. So on the ship, you would have the chef, Neil. I loved him. He was my favorite. He's the one that took us on this journey. He took me into the kitchen. I got to see how the chefs work and get out all of those food dishes for all of those 6 restaurants. You can't even imagine how that can be possible.
So it's one kitchen for all 6.
No, they have several areas, but they all like meat dishes were different, separate from fish
I got it. Oh, that makes sense.
in the ship. but they paired wines with what you were eating, and when you were eating it, it was a menu for the country you were in. So in Greece, we had lots of seafood. We had this most delicious, crisp white wines that they made there in the local area, and in Sicily, we had wonderful Sicilian kind of food that has an Arab, because, Arabs owned Sicily for the longest time. And so they have a hodgepodge of dishes, like they put raisins and cinnamon and all kinds of flavors in
Hmm.
Sicilian food, but
I
really
did
good
not
red
know
wines
that.
and white wines in Sicily.
When we lived in South Africa, Greek wine and Italian wine was a big deal, and I don't see it like we do here. Like here in the U.S., I don't see them being very prominent. Like
Yeah.
when you go to buy wines, I mean they're in the international parts, but I think we always do New Zealand, maybe South Africa, and that kind of thing. Obviously France, but Greek wines were always a big deal. Maybe
And the
because we had
other
so many Greek people living there. I don't know.
Yeah, and the other good thing on the ship was the olive oil. Greek olive oil is some of the best. We went to this vineyard where I bought a bottle of wine, and they had the oldest olive tree. I can't even imagine an older. It was like as big as a tabletop around and all gnarly, still producing olives.
Wow, that's amazing. That's cool. Now you're getting really Mediterranean when you're
Yeah.
doing that. That is cool. Does it remind you of California at all?
Yeah, arid. And then we didn't go to one of the well-known Greek islands. We went to little ports, but Santorini, just say, is one, where the Greek islands all white and it's high in blue and high up in the mountains. We didn't go there, but they had ancient cathedrals and Greek Orthodox. We got a lot of history about the Byzantines and the Greek Orthodox and how they split from Rome. And that's another reason why I loved going this area, just learning all the history.
And so it seems everybody's really connected through the past,
Yes. Yeah.
both Italy and Greece, from where you went, that there's this shared history, you know, good and bad, right? Good and bad on all of that.
Oh, and
So,
then when we went to this Missos, the Byzantine village, that's where Sparta was and Helen of Troy. Remember that story?
that's right.
The Trojan horse? We
Yeah,
actually went there where that battle happened.
that's epic.
And then you kept learning all about this Greek mythology wherever you went. And it all started coming back to me like, high school English. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, no, really. That's amazing, isn't it? We learned all that. But it really comes to life when you're there more than a textbook.
Yeah.
That's that beautiful power of travel again. It's like I always think kids got to go out and do this, but I don't think this was very much a kid's journey. Wouldn't you say this is more of an adult cruise, slow
Yeah. And
cruise?
Windstar, there were no children on this cruise. And I think they prefer older children
Hmm.
that accompany their grandparents or their parents, but there were not any on this particular ship. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's definitely an adult ship. And one of my favorite, they have what's called something called the Yacht Club. And it's this beautiful, like a game, just imagine a game room up in the bow of the ship with windows all the way around it. And it just so happened to be 2 floors up, almost above my room. So in the morning, I never went to the breakfast room and had the big buffet of all kinds of breakfast foods you can eat, even though I'm sure it was wonderful. But I just like sneaking up to the yacht club and getting a cappuccino and a pastry and sitting down and just looking at that view. That was my
Oh,
favorite.
man, that's cool. I know. It's just nice when you can take that time and not be so rushed.
Yeah.
I think, and I think not putting, I'm not against kids traveling whatsoever. I think it's really important that they do. But I think sometimes it's nice to be able to go on a cruise where it's calm or go on on a travel experience where I really don't want to hear screaming and crying. I don't.
Well, there's a time for everything and every
Everything. Yes.
family and every
Yeah.
like little families. There wouldn't enough for little kids to do on this cruise. Why
Yeah.
would
It's
you
not built
choose
for it.
that cruise for if
And
you
there
have
are
a little?
cruises for families, and I like I said, I'm very pro that, and I'm not anti being on a cruise ship with kids, but when you're looking for a quiet, calm experience, adult style, this is where to go.
Yeah, and like in a ship as small as Windstar, there was no casino. There was no like Vegas style dancing shows at night. There was music, and it was really, really good music, but small little venues. And that was fun and the way I like to.
Nice and calm.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, this sounds like it was an epic cruise. Everyone, windstarcruises.com is the website, but also that is linked in the episode notes, as is Sharon's article that gives you, some great tips on going, and the links are all in there. So, Sharon, what is next?
I want to talk to you about going to Sweden and what makes Sweden so fascinating. It has more islands than any other nation on earth.
I did not know that. I just think cheese and chocolate. As soon as you say Sweden, I know Swiss chocolate, but I mean Sweden is also good at chocolate, right?
Yes, and it was cool, amazingly cool, and it was the time of the midnight summer when it stayed late until midnight, and then it got a little dark, and then it was bright again at 3 a.m.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So
That's my style.
The Swedes are out and about because they have equal amount of darkness in the winter. So when it's summertime, they are out and enjoying every minute of that sunshine.
That's cool. Well, we can't wait. We'll have that report for you next month, everyone. Thank you for tuning in here for Wonder the World with Sharon. And don't forget, also in the link in the episode notes is a link to her digital podcast magazine where you can see her articles as well. So thanks, Sharon. Happy traveling.
Thank you. And to you, I'll see you next month.
That's right.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wonder the World with Sharon podcast. You can keep up with Sharon's adventures at SharonKKurtz.com. Follow Big Blend Radio at BigBlendRadio.com. Happy travels!